What's up guys, welcome back to Crossworld TCG. I'm Logan here again. It's been a while since I posted a video on the channel, but school's let up a little bit for Thanksgiving break, so I thought I'd bring you guys my updated Super Saiyan God Son Goku Soul Striker list featuring the Gotenks line. Now with set 5, we got a bunch of new tools that we have for this deck, making it a lot more streamlined and making it make way more sense to just run a pure Gotenks list. Jumping right into it, as you guys know, there's the Super Saiyan God Son Goku as our leader. His ability allows us to untap an energy when he attacks on the front side and to untap 2 and draw a card on the back side. He's a draw 2 leader, so overall we're really just trying to go for those huge tempo plays where we untap a ton of energy every turn. That way we can keep up on the defense and also be able to push really hard aggressively. To that end, starting off with the deck, we have 2 Shenron Figure of Majesty. This card's really cool. It's out of that black Shenron structure deck. He has a Sparking 5 effect, draw 1 card, choose 1 effect, choose up to 2 of your energy, switch them to active mode, choose 1 battle card with an energy of 2 or less from your drop area and play it. We're probably not going to use that effect very often. There's not a ton of good targets in this list. Or choose 1 card, choose 1 of your battle cards or leader cards. It gains plus 5k and critical for the duration of the turn. So this guy synergizes very well with our Super Saiyan God, because on turn 4 you can drop him, restand 2 energy, draw a card, swing with our leader, draw another card, untap 2 energy, so we're completely untapped again. And also the ability to give something critical is very important. As you'll see later on in the list, tons and tons of cards in this deck have critical. Tons of your main pressure plays have crit, which is really cool. Moving on, we have 1 copy of Legendary Flute. This guy, it's interesting in this list. It's not super necessary, but I included it anyways because we have cards that we want to use on our turn and then bounce them back to hand. Specifically this Ki Barrage Trunks. He's an awakening tool that you can search off of this 4-drop. But overall, Legendary Flute's a good card. It allows you to either tap down blockers if you need to go for game, or bring back things into your hand if you want to protect them from being removed. Moving on, we have 2 Ki Barrage Son Goten. This is one of the new cards out of set 5. You can get these in the starter deck, the Gogeta starter deck, which is really cool. Because this deck, most of it can be put together without a ton of set 5 cards. If you just bought a starter deck, you can basically build this whole deck plus another couple cards. But his effect is at the end of the turn, return this card to its owner's hand, so he's cool. He's in here because he's a blue Goten 10k, which synergizes well with some of the other Trunkses that we have. But the fact that he returns himself is really cool because you can summon him early on to put some pressure on and then get him back for later. Moving on, we have 2 Awakening cards in this deck. Awakening Talon Pan. Fantastic card. Really, she's just there because you need a awakening tool besides this Trunks to be able to push through and awaken your leader, because untapping energy is one of the core tenets of this deck. So getting to do that for free, and the fact that she bounces herself back to hand, is really, really cool. I don't think anything else needs to be said about her. 4 copies of Senzu Bean, blue staple, untaps energy, gives your leader plus 5k, best defensive card, best defensive card. Not much needs to be said. We got another cool card out of set 5, Dimension Magic. Counter attack, your leader card is blue, negate the attack, then choose up to 2 of your blue energy, switch them to active mode, and then it has a permanent Sparking 5. If you have 5 or more in the drop, you can activate this card's counter skill from your hand by adding a card from your life to your hand instead of paying its energy cost. Just a phenomenal blue negate. The fact that this deck will almost never tap out on your opponent's turn because of your leader effect, because of Senzu Bean, because of this card. It's all great. Unfortunately, we're not able to take advantage of the sheer amount of energy that we have, as well as other decks can, because the Gotenks list, or the Gotenks line that we're playing, is just a little too thick. But still a great negate. Still allows you to untap from 0, so it's really cool. Moving on, we have 4 Unyielding Spirit Trunks. This is one of the best Trunks targets that you can play. It's during your turn when you combo with this card, and your leader is blue, choose up to 1, switch to active mode. And then, as we'll show later on, with this guy, this is essentially is super cool. It searches out most of your deck. But this guy, I don't think he needs too much of an explanation. He feeds on with the leader ability. He's the best Trunk for Gotenks, so we're playing him at 4. Moving on, we have 2 Ki Barrage Trunks. This is another really cool card because that came out of the starter deck because it gives us a Trunks that is searchable that is also an awakening tool. So we're able to actually put it on the board awakening to get full value out of our leader swing, because you don't really want a leader swing unless you're getting the draw, unless you're untapping 2 energy, and this allows us to do that. And like I said earlier, it couples well with Flute if you want to bounce it back to hand. Next, we're playing the 4 Great Saiyaman Town Hero. This is also in that blue starter deck. It is the super combo, but is a Sparking 5. I opted to play the Sparking 5 ones in this list specifically because we're playing a Gotenks cards that allow us to pitch cards from our hand to the drop in order to play them. And if you just combo any other cards along the way, it turns it on really quickly. Moving on, we have one of the best cards for this deck. Oh my god, this is what makes this deck now. Quick Thinking Gotenks, phenomenal card. He has Crit, Union Fusion 2, 1 Trunks Youth, and 1 Sun Goten. And they have to have the same they have to have the same power to be able to play this card. So you can't, unfortunately, use like the blocker Trunks that I was using in the earlier list because it has to be 10k. So that's why we're playing the Ki Barrage now. And that's also why we're playing 2 of these green ones, because it's 10k, this one's 10k, 10k, 10k. So they all work together really well. And then when it's played with Fusion, you draw 2. So this allows you to get dead cards out of your hand and to cycle into those better cards, your more defensive cards, your super combos, whatever you need to be able to take this game. And then when it attacks, you draw a card. So this card gets insane value. It cycles through 3 cards on its first turn, pressures critical on turn 2. Like, it really does it all. This is like one of the best cards that I think this deck could have gotten, aside from a little bit better of Gotens and Trunkses. I think the Trunks is really cool that we got. I think that future support, hopefully they step out those, because our Gotenks at this point are just great. We have 3 really solid Gotenks that we're playing in this list, and I want to show off the next one, which is also one of my favorite cards from set 4. This was the Keystone that I showed in the last mono blue deck profile with it, and it's Crit. And then place this. It's a 4-drop 20k crit, and when you can place this card in your drop area, choose up to 1 Sun Goten and Trunks Youth from your deck and place them into your hand, and choose up to 2 of your energy, switch them to active mode, shuffle your deck. So this works pretty well because you can restand green energy, which means you're able to play on curve really easily. If you'll notice, everything in this deck has a specified cost of only 2, so by turn 4 you can go double green, double blue, and then your curve fills out really nicely. But this card is essentially a 1-drop because you can play him and then search out this Unyielding Spirit Trunks, and then if you swing with your leader, or you play something else, or if you have anything else on the board, like if you have this Quick Thinking Gotenks, you can tap out to play Quick Thinking, draw another card with him, pump another 5k, so you have 2 15k crits, or 2 20k crit swings. You're still not tapped out, and then you can swing with your leader, restand 2 energy, draw another card, and then if you have another Bean or Trunks in your hand, you can do that again, play another copy of Gotenks, swing again, untap 2, add 2 more cards, and really this deck just cycles through its deck. This deck cycles through its deck insanely fast because of these cards. They synergize so well with each other. Basically, they all say draw 2. And speaking of draw 2, we're moving on to the next card, which is Ultimate Fusion Gogeta. Another just phenomenal card out of the starter deck. Really, like, you get all of these cards out of that blue starter deck. It's just a great deck. But it has double strike, or the 5-drop 25k, double strike, Union Fusion. Unfortunately, we're not going to be utilizing those effects in this deck profile. We're using him just because he's one of the best blue bombs that we can play that also gains advantage. And this deck is kind of lacking double strikers, so playing him there too is also really good. The fact that he has double strike synergizes with this Shenron. Being able to double strike crit for 30k is just massive. And then if you have both, and then if you have the Goku on the board afterwards, you get to swing on tap 2. So you're never tapped out with this deck, so you can throw your big bombs on the board, no problem. And then his main effect, which is Sparking 5. When you play this card, draw 2, choose up to 2 of your opponent's battle card, place them at the bottom of the owner's deck in any order. So really, this guy is just a phenomenal tool for the deck. Any blue deck can play this. Moving on to our green package, we have 2 Sun Goten Family of Justice. Really, this is a green target, so you can charge him as green energy. He's a 10k, so he synergizes well with the other 10k Trunkses that we have in the deck. And also his ability to pop a card is sometimes relevant, so it's really solid that we have him in it here at 2, so that we can use 1 to charge for energy, search 1 if we need to clear a threat, and do whatever he needs to do. So really good inclusion. Next we have a 3-3 split of Unified Spirit Trunks and Unified Spirit Sun Goten from the Heroes box that came out a while ago. These cards are really cool. They both flute themselves back to hand as an activated main ability, but the Sun Goten is, when you play this card, look at the top 7 of your deck, choose 1 Trunks Youth among them with 15k less power and add it to your hand. So worst comes to worst, he's 1 specified green, so you can slap him down on the board, search for Trunks, flute him back to hand, swing with your leader to untap 2 energy, and then at that point you can Union Fusion into something like Gotenks if you wanted to put additional pressure on. Because there are a lot of Trunks in this deck, you won't really whiff too often unless you've gone through most of them already. And then moving on to the Trunks, this guy's a little less cool. he is, when this card attacks, you may reveal one Sun Goten from your hand. If you do, choose one of your opponent's battle card with 3 or less and KO that card. So still a really cool effect. He can clear blockers, or he can clear any small threats on your opponent's board without actually having to attack into them and without losing any additional advantage. So both of them are really great cards. Most of the time, these guys end up getting charged, or I'll search both out at once with this Gotenks if I'm going to pitch them off of the Quick Thinking Gotenks, or the Raging Energy Blast Gotenks, to pitch them off of this Gotenks, because really you want to keep these for actually using them for their energy effects. But overall, really solid cards. Only a 3-3 split. Originally, I had 4 of this guy and 2 of this guy because this guy could search the trunks, and then I just had hands that were not the greatest, where I really wish that I could just search out additional copies of trunks. And then moving on, we got another really cool card out of set 5, Infernal Villainy Cell. Critical, when you play this card, or when you play or combo with this card, draw 1. So he's really cool because you can play him as a critical threat, and then he replaces himself automatically. Or this is the replacement for that Unbreakable Spirit Super Saiyan Goku, the red super combo-esque card that people were playing in tons of decks. And then the fact that this is green just bolsters our green line. If we need to hit certain curves, or we need to be able to put Psyched Up Gotenks on the board as a finisher or as a legitimate threat, we have the ability to charge it, or we can combo with it, draw a card, and it's just really fantastic. Really good synergy with the leader, really good synergy with Dimension Magic, and I don't think anything more needs to be said about this guy. He's just a really fantastic card, and I hope we get one of each of these for every single color. And then finally, the old school classic, Psyched Up Gotenks. This card has been out for a while now. He hasn't really been able to be played in a ton of decks, but his effect is Union Fusion for 2 green and 2 colorless, a Sun Goten and a Trunks Youth, and then it gains double strike, or has double strike. And when you play it, if you have a Sun Goten in your drop, draw 2 cards. If you have a Trunks Youth in your drop, draw 1 card, or choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards and KO it. So this card is really cool because you can Union Fusion to dump the 2, or if you don't have them in your hand and you just want to hard cast him for 6 if the game gets that late, which it probably won't with how quickly this goes through its deck. This deck goes through itself, but you're able to still hard cast it and still get its full effect even late game, which is really nice. Also, there's 3 in here because he's great, but he's also really solid green energy. Really, you're probably not going to drop more than 1, maybe 2 of these in a game. So like the fact that we have 3 in here is just to charge them and have extras of them for when we need to hit our curves, because a lot of this deck doesn't have specified energy, or is like really low on the specified energy. Overall, this deck is really cool. I've been liking playing it a lot. Other than that, the ratios that we're looking at here is the 4-4 on the 10k Gotens, and then to a 2-2, or no, 4-6 on the 10ks. I'm sorry, and that's specifically because we don't really want to use this Unyielding Spirit Trunks too often to Union Fuse with. It's not super important because our deck untaps a lot, but on our turn 4, we typically have, turn 4, turn 5, we typically have access to just insane amounts of tempo plays where we're able to drop a Shenron, untap 2, swing with leader, untap 2, so drop a Gotenks, swing, pump a Trunks into it, untap, and then sack the Gotenks to search another Trunks, to untap another 2, to play a Quick Thinking, to swing again, to untap with the Trunks, to untap with Bean, untap all the way back up, play another Gotenks. Like, just the amount of energy manipulation in this deck is great for the amount of pressure that it puts on. The amount of critical threats that we have is great because it allows us to really push hard when we need to, without giving our opponent tons of advantage. The biggest issue that I have with this deck, there's a couple things, is that 1, it doesn't deal with barrier very well. I haven't figured out a way to really incorporate an answer to barrier into this deck. I was playing against my buddy's, Jackie Chun deck the other day, and it was just so frustrating because none of my stuff stayed on the board because of Double Chop Nom, and then all of his threats had barrier, so like my Gogeta and my Gotenks really weren't clearing anything. But other than that, the matchup was still close, even though he had a ton of barrier, just because of the amount of pressure that this deck can put on, and the amount of defense that it can play as well. Another thing that I had an issue with was, I swear there was something else. Just the fact that there's no real 1-drops in this deck. You don't have a ton of early game plays. Really, it's Quick Thinking or bust, and it's so frustrating when you don't see this card early on, because it's so good. It does so much. But yeah, other than that, I hope you guys get a chance to try out these new Gotenks cards. I think they're really, really cool. I've been a big fan of Gotenks for a long time now, and I've been ever since this Raging Energy Blast Gotenks came out, but there was no other good cards to utilize with him. and I think that this deck is a good starting point for any of you guys out there. It's really easy to get because really, I mean, if you had all the cards from before, like if you had your beans and then you had like these cards because you enjoyed playing Gotenks, they're not super expensive either. They may be like at max like $3 for a playset of this, $3 for a playset of this, maybe like $5 for a playset of this. So it's pretty kind of budget-esque deck overall, except for the Senzu beans. And then most of the stuff you can get from the newest structure decks, which I think is really cool. The only thing else is the Infernal Villainy Cell. But if you have most of these cards already, then it's not going to be too hard to pick up the cards from set 5 that you need to play this deck, which I think is really cool. It's a great fact that, or a great way to update this new deck with some new life. I think both of these, this Gogeta and this Gotenks, even outside of a dedicated Gotenks deck, are still going to be very good cards, even if you ignore their Union Fusion effects because they both put on a ton of pressure. But aside from that, tell me what you guys think down in the comment section below. If you haven't already, subscribe down below. And as Joe has always been saying, the more subscribers the channel has before the end of Nats rolls around, the bigger the giveaway is going to have or be able to throw. So this has been Logan here with Crossworld TCG, here after a long absence. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.